What's going on, Bully fam? It's your boy, the educator, the scientist, Mr. Double Muscle Line Bulls, bringing you another episode of Breeders' Hacks. So I got Double Muscle Line Ant with me. He's actually behind the camera while we're recording.
Nope.
So what we got going on today is our litter from Cocoa Puff Red to Badger has finally dropped. So we were talking, and one of the things that we were thinking about was, we got to shoot a video, showing people the things that we use when we pick up our litters from getting a C-section done. If you're breeding, exotic bullies usually in general, you're going to want to get a C-section. It's usually pretty unethical. Try to do a natural birth, especially with the exotic bullies, things like that. I would say like 90% of the community, and don't hold me to the exact number, but 90% of people get C-section. So you don't want to risk losing your female. You don't want to risk losing the puppies. Get a C-section. Everybody's usually happy. So anyway, so like I said, our litter just dropped about, 2 days ago?
Yeah, about 2 days ago.
Yeah, so the litter dropped about 2 days ago. And one of the things that we were talking about, like I said, was our vet is that we normally get for our C-sections is a really great vet. So we travel a little bit of a distance, and I recommend anybody, if you have a vet that offers great service, don't be worried about traveling. That is something I highly recommend. Go ahead and travel, because our vet is about 4 hours away for C-section. So it's definitely a trip. And so what winds up happening is, right, since it's 4 hours, these puppies, when they're first born, they need to eat every 2 hours, not from when you wake up to when you go to sleep. No, every 2 hours, 24/7. So with that being said, when you leave the vet, and we, like us, have a 4-hour drive, you need to make sure that they're eating, in between that drive. Say if you have a 3-hour drive or whatever the case it may be, you need to make sure that they're getting fed. So the key thing when it comes to having puppies, firstborn, is really setting yourself up for success in the beginning. I always say this: set yourself up for success in the beginning, so you don't have to worry about losing puppies. So what I'm just getting at is I'm gonna go over the kit that we use when we go ahead and bring puppies home, and this literally, like I said, will set you up for success. And I'm gonna explain what we use and why. So the first thing is an incubator. We always bring our travel incubator whenever we're picking up puppies from the vet. With our travel incubator, it runs on 12 volt, and what separates this from mostly all the other incubators you see online or anything like that is there's an adapter you can plug into your carport, your cigarette lighter. So with this adapter, it keeps the puppies, I believe it keeps the puppies like 90 degrees in there, something around there. And I mean, it simulates as if they were still in their mother. You don't have crying puppies while you're driving home, having them in a box with blankets and stuff like that. They're usually, extremely quiet and just sleeping, and they're extremely comfortable in this thing. And another thing is that crying puppies is usually not good. They're trying to tell you something is wrong. If you have the right temperature, if they're properly fed, they're going to be quiet, content, and relaxed. If they're crying, something is wrong. And if you let them keep going crying, then that can wind up leading to, yet again, a very unpleasant experience. So that's where, like I said, if you have the proper temperature, they're properly fed, when we're taking them home from the vet, perfectly quiet. You don't hear a thing, and even days later, like I said, they're a couple days later, they're completely quiet, sleeping. Also, the more they cry, the more they're wasting energy, and especially say if they're not fed, that's more energy they're losing, and they're not getting any replaced, which is, like I said, becomes a bad cycle now where you can start losing puppies. But yet again, so that's why you just want to make sure that you stay on top of making if they're crying, what is wrong. It's usually one of like three things. They either need to eat, it's either the heat, or they need to pee and poo. So those are the three things that you need to always check. I'll check the heat. Okay, I have my incubator. I know that it's warm enough. Do they need to eat? See when was the last time they ate. That's why I always ask the vet. Don't be afraid to ask. Ask the vet. When was the last time did they eat? You know? And then maybe try offering them a bottle. If they take, great. If they don't want it, then you know it's not the food. What? And the last thing, pee and poo. Stimulate them to go to the bathroom, or make sure that the mother makes sure that they stimulate to go to the bathroom. Puppies need to be stimulated every time. After every feeding, they need to be stimulated to go to the bathroom. Those three things, you will usually wind up having quiet and content puppies. So I recommend everyone have a travel incubator, some kind of setup that keeps them at a constant temperature, so you know when you bring them home that temperature wasn't an issue. I mean, I've seen people jerry rig like heating pads and certain containers and things like that. As long as you can keep them warm and know the temperature, that's one thing you can check off your list that you don't have to worry about happening. So this is a must. And we have this on breedershacks.com, different sizes. There's the big one where if you're which is ideal, I would say, if you want to use that later when you bring it home, or the travel size, the mini, which if this is really, we just strictly use this for bringing them home back and forth. That's it. The next thing is our tube feeding kit. Right here, our tube feeding kit, right? So, let me grab one extra. Our tube feeding kit. So we have a 5 French and an 8 French and a 10 millimeter, a 10 milliliter syringe and a 30 milliliter syringe. So this is really kind of good for, most all breeds. And with this here, this is now in case you're driving or whatever the case may be, or another thing, I'm just going to backtrack a little bit, right? Another thing is that vets, most vets are supposed to feed the puppies, after the C-section. They'll put the puppies on the mother, let the puppies eat. There's two things that, that can kind of go wrong in certain situations. The first thing is some places that I've heard of, some places that people go to, these vets or these people aren't, putting the puppies to eat. It's like an assembly line. They do the C-section and get the female out. That is a huge thing you need to ask your vet or whoever's doing your C-section. Did the puppies eat? If not, your clock starts a lot later back. If they did just eat, then you have the 2 hours. But the other thing I was going to say now was that you also have to make sure that did the puppies even really get anything off of the mother? And that's something they may not be able to really tell you, indicator may be like you have puppies whining, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. And you would need to check the mother, see if she's producing, milk. So that's where having a tube feeding kit would help. If you know how to tube feed, we have an episode on Breeders Hacks on how to tube feed. You can go ahead and now have this, and while you're on the road or whatever the case it may be, like I said, for us, it's a 4-hour drive. So when Double Muscle Line Ant was on his way back, midway through the drive, he had to stop. He tube fed all the puppies. They were good to go. So having a tube feeding kit, always essential and key. Yet again, you can get it on breedershacks.com. The next thing is these 2 items is also going to be important. Obviously, you need a tube feeding kit. You're going to need goat milk. I have the formula that we use on Breeders Hacks, with the egg and the mayo and the carrot syrup, things like that. But when we're first bringing them home and you need to feed them in between, we're usually not doing all that. We're just going to give them the powdered goat's milk. So like Ant did, stop at like 7-Eleven, get some hot water, make some goat's milk, and that's what you'll put in your tube to give to the puppies. So powdered goat's milk. Or what you can do is, if the female is producing enough milk, you can go ahead and put the puppies, bring a blanket and put them in the car, lay the female down, and let the puppies feed off the mother. But you need to make sure that they're eating. You have to make sure that they're eating. Don't wait until you get home. because when you get home, hours, what I've found at least, hours is like kind of like hours without feeding for the puppies is like days without eating for us. And usually when you, by the time you bring them home, if it's been hours and hours and hours, they're usually too weak, they can't suckle, they die on you. So this is how we prevent all that, you know. And then if you're bringing the goat's milk and you're bringing the tube feeding kits, why not bring a bottle? And the bottle is also for, you know, what we'll use to put the powder and water in and things like that. So for example, if I'm putting in 1 ounce of powder, I'll go ahead and make sure that I have an extra 2 parts of water, you know. And you go ahead and shake this up, and you just need to have a way to make sure you're able to measure out the proper amount of powder to water. So we'll just use a bottle. You could put also too, you know, you could use the bottle if you don't want to tube feed and bottle feed each puppy. That works too. So that's why we have a bottle. It works as a container as well as, you know, can feed the puppies. This is a Dr. Brown's bottle. I don't sell these on the site or anything like that. I don't sell the goat milk on the site, but you guys can easily get that at like Walmart or anything like that. So the last thing that's really needed is your scale. So this is the scales that we sell on breedershacks.com. And then yet again, it weighs in grams, I believe ounces, what else, pounds, milliliters, all that stuff. You're only really going to need it set to grams. And like I tell you guys, what's so great about our scales is that this metal bowl, you know, comes out, because puppies will pee and poo and make a mess. So you can go ahead and, I mean, you know, you can disinfect this, you can power wash it, do whatever, you know, and the scale is unbothered. So it makes for great cleanup. So this is just to make sure, for example, when you're on the road and you have to now feed puppies, you don't want to overfeed. I mean, you also don't want to really underfeed either. So having a scale will be really kind of helpful. And this isn't really, you know, it doesn't take up much space. You know, the puppies are small. So with this scale, what you'll do is you'll go ahead and find out how many grams they are. And or really, I mean, you want to find out how many ounces there are. And this actually does weigh in ounces as well. Find out how many ounces, and you're going to give 1 cc per ounce of body weight. So that's pretty much how you would figure that out. We have a whole episode on Breeders' Hacks about weighing your puppies and things like that. And like I said, this whole kit is just what will set you up for success right when you leave the vet. It doesn't start when you get the puppies home. It starts when you leave the vet, because it all depends on how long is your car ride. If you have a 20-minute car ride, that's maybe not so bad. But, you know, if the vet took the puppies out and the puppies, let's just say the mother, they had the puppies for 6 hours because they were waiting for the anesthesia to fall, you know, to wear off from the mother, and they wanted to monitor them. And they didn't really put the puppies to eat, though. That could be a very serious issue. You need to get them fed right away. So, like I said, those are all things you need to be mindful of. This will really kind of set you up for success, you know, from day one, you know, from right when you leave. Like I said, you won't have to worry about, you'll be able to feed them. You'll be able to make sure that they're in a temperature controlled environment. You'll be able to weigh them, so you know that how much they weigh to be able to feed them correctly and things like that. And that's pretty much it, guys. Like I said, you know, I've learned over the years, like I said, having a kit like this will actually in turn make your experience a lot easier, because you're starting them off on the right foot. The minute puppies get behind, it is very hard to get them caught back up, because especially, like, say for example, you miss a feeding or anything like that. You know, that 2-hour rule is very important because of the fact that they can go into a caloric deficit. They're trying to grow and also maintain at the same time, if that makes sense. So if they miss a feeding, now they have to try to replenish what they lost as well as grow at the same time. It can be very dramatic. So you just got to make sure that you stay on top of it, and then you won't have any issues, and it'll be a very pleasant experience. If you get behind on anything, you get lazy and miss out on any of these things, it can become a very unpleasant experience. So, all right, guys, I hope that was helpful. Like I said, some of the stuff you can get on breedershacks.com. And that's pretty much it, guys. All right. So I can't wait. We're gonna be revealing some of these puppies very soon, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of Breeders' Hacks.